God's got it, right? I might not have it. Now, I have a picture in my bedroom where my youngest son there, he has Nora and he's holding her hands. And he made this comment to me, and it's on the picture. It says, I got it. So I was laughing because I was talking to him the other day. And now that she's close to being a teenager, he decided he doesn't got it anymore. I had to laugh a little bit. We're on the one that says spiritual stability. I don't think Prig got one. Tanya can help me out. You got two? Okay. You want one, wild child? Oh, okay. All right. And if you if you're following anything as far as politics and the news, how many know more than ever before we need stability? We just do. And I know tonight starts the 250th anniversary of our country, the celebration. I think they're having a fair and all that kind of stuff in D.C. I know they have flyovers this evening up there. But here's what Burhay wants you to understand. How many think we just need a little bit of unity? How many think that go a long ways? And I was saying about this the other day. They did some kind of survey, and one particular group made the comment that over 40% of this particular group didn't want to be in America. They wanted to live somewhere else. And man, and, and I thought to myself, wow, can you imagine what would happen if all of a sudden people got their wish? But here's what I have noticed. How many know all these soccer fans are here? Now, I know we don't get into soccer in our little area, but it is funny if you see anything because on my little news feed that I get, all these soccer fans are loving our country. They're all happy. You know, one of the things they can't get over? Bucky's. Yeah. Now, if you ever been to a Bucky's, you know why. It's like a big old thing. I remember first time we went there, I was like, man, how am I going to keep track of all my kids? Did you? Well, it oh yeah. If you go to buy the one up there in Dallas, like when you go to Florida and stuff, that place is unreal. But anyway, I was laughing. And then all of us from the South will get this one. The one of the big things they had on my news feed, they went to a Waffle House like at midnight. I was thinking, I wonder what neighborhood that was in. But anyway, they were amazed about the Waffle House, so they had a good experience. So that was a good thing, right? And I just think about all the things that people in our country take for granted. And you know what the biggest thing is? The grocery stores and Walmart. They just can't believe that we have that many selections. It's scary, right? Now, yeah, people still complain. Fred, what were you going to say? Oh yeah. Uh-huh. Uh, yeah. Well, what I learned a long time ago, you don't know what you have until it's gone. I know that might sound bad to a lot of people, but over the years, and I've been in a lot of these other countries, and they can talk about how great they are all they want to, but I will guarantee you that our country's still by head and shoulders above the others. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, listen, I know I haven't been overseas now for a while, and I'm sure that it's changed probably some. But I can tell you, in a lot of places, the only way they get their food is in an open market. It's just how it works. And they don't have the grocery stores and all that all those kind of things. And here we have so many. How many know we have our time trying to decide what we want sometimes? So we're all the way up to number 2. We finished number 1 last week. We'll try to get through a couple this week. And I encourage you, if you can come Saturday, it would be good. I'm going to try to, but it depends on how wore out I am from going to Albuquerque tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to be warm too. Uh, it says number 2. Here's what it says: unity is the key to the church being able to go forward. And this Philippians chapter 4, start verse 2. I beseech Odius and I beseech Cynthia that they be of the same mind in the Lord. And I entreat thee also, true yokefellow, help those women which labor with me in the gospel, with Clement also, and with my other fellow laborers whose names are in the book of life. And as we get started, here's the first thing I have down here: division will destroy the work of the church. I just want you to know nothing destroys anything like division. How many know kids like to play mom and dads against each other? If moms and dad aren't aware of that, how many know that can destroy that relationship really quick? Not the relationship of the kid, but the relationship between the parents. And so they have to have a unified front when they're dealing with them. And so all these kind of things that go on. Have you ever worked a job where nobody gets along? What kind of place is that like to work? Man, I mean, if you have to, you have to, but in most cases, most people don't last very long in jobs like that. And I learned real quick, even in the Air Force, there are some people that are just professional dividers. That's what Brother Hay calls them. Nothing's ever good enough. Nobody ever does enough. I mean, you can just run the whole gamut of all the complaints, right? But we should never be that kind of person. We should be the kind of person that tries to bring people together and not cause division all the time. And part of the problem that happens in the church, it's hard to go in any direction if you have people pulling in different directions. And it doesn't matter anything that you do. Can you imagine trying to mow the grass and one tire is trying to go to the left and the other tire on the right mower is trying to go to the right? How does that work? Yep, it's nap time, and it's time to stop, right? Because you can't do it. You just can't. Or if the wheel will only turn one direction, what happens? It just goes in circles. And so I think about those kind of things, and especially in the church, we have to be real careful because the church can be divided. Not, it's just funny to Brother Hay. Years ago, when before COVID, we had all that kind of crazy stuff, and before Brother Hay had to step down and those kind of things. At one point, we had so many kids that came that played music, and I remember, and I'm trying to think of the song that they played. Was it "I Can Only Imagine"? I think that's what it was. I can't remember the name of the song now, but anyway, it was a new song. And we had people in our church who were upset because they were going to play that song in church. And I remember thinking to myself, are you guys crazy? We need our kids to be on the same page, right? And one of the biggest arguments in the church is always music, just always has been. Some people like old music, some people like contemporary music. Man, now the first time I ever heard gospel, uh, whatever they call that, and the one where they just say the words. You know how much I like that music. What is it, Kayla? No, not acapella. The ones where the guys rap. There you go. I was trying to think of the name of the music. That's how much Brother Hay likes it. I remember the first time I ever heard gospel rap. Kaylee had it on Caleb, and I was like, Kaylee, I'm not listening to that. It was a good song, but I can tell you from personal experience that music is something that the enemy uses to divide people. Somebody says, "Hey, I like the old songs." Somebody says, "Well, I only like the new songs." We don't have our redback hymnals out anymore, but we used to sing out of them most of the time. Is there one over there? Yeah, yeah, we got a couple, but for the most part, we don't sing out of the hymnals anymore. But we kind of put them away. But the thing of it is, now we put the words up on the board, And one of the reasons why we started doing it, believe it or not, them songbooks cost a lot of money. And man, we used to go through a lot of songbooks. Yeah, they color in them, do whatever, and we'd be like, "Oh, we can't afford this." But so when we got where we could put the words up, that was a money saving thing. But my point is, something as simple as music can divide. How many know some people like Southern gospel, right? I like Southern gospel. I pretty much like all of them. I've even learned how to like rap just a little bit. Okay. But uh, everybody's got their own particular things. But here's what it says, and this is important. 1 Corinthians 1:10. It says, I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus, that you all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. Now, before we go any further, I'll talk about the same mind in a minute, but one of the things that we have to do is what should bind us together is our relationship with Christ. That should be what joins us. Does that make sense? All this other stuff we got to be careful about. How many know there are some churches that don't have music in the church? They sing a cappella. There are some churches that only sing a certain kind of church. There was one guy in Albuquerque. Now, I don't know what's happened because when I heard this guy make this statement, it was about 10 years ago. And I think he was like 37, 38 years old. And one of the things he said from his pulpit, they really didn't want anybody under 40 in their church or over 40 in their church, excuse me. And I was wondering to myself, because I know he's past 40 now. But can I tell you, isn't it funny how even a division within the church can be between the young people, the older people, and everybody? And I have been in churches, believe it or not, if a little ones come in and they kind of make a little bit of mess, everybody's upset. Or a baby cries. Can Brother Hay tell you? I love it when I hear babies cry here. I know it sounds weird. Brother Hay's a little weird, but you know that tells me there's life in the church. Now you can have a what you think is a perfect church where everything's just perfect as far as being tied the way that it should be and kept and all that. But I always think back, and Larry, I remember this. We used to have an aunt, and if we went to their house, which was very, very rare, but we used to have this aunt, and guess what? Her kids couldn't even sit on their furniture. And you know what it was? They Fred, I kid you not, they put back in the day plastic over the furniture. And I used to think to myself, ha, what good is this stuff? Right? And and I think about a church. If you want everything to be kept in a certain way and everything to be perfect, how many know the church is never going to be able to grow because there's always going to be imperfection as long as it's made up of human beings. And I don't care how hard you try to make it perfect, it's just not going to happen. And I always have had this thought in the back of my head because for a long time, this is what the church was. They wanted everything just perfectly taken care of, and our yard always looks good. But I mean, just down to everything. If one blade of grass isn't quite right, you're in trouble, kind of thing. Well, how many know sometimes that makes a lot of people uncomfortable? Because how many of us live in perfect places? Okay. It's sort of like, oh man. Now, if you come to our house, I promise you probably eat off our floors most days. Now, Sister Hayes say no, but I promise you, she sweeps. When she gets done sweeping, there's not enough there to even worry about. But anyway, everybody's got their own thing. But I look at that. But here's the thing: my thought process is not everybody does that, right? And when our kids were little, you know what used to drive Sister Hay crazier than anything else? And it does now, and we've had the grandkids for a few days. When stuff is not where it's supposed to be. and I told her the other day, I said, it'll be okay. They're going home in a couple of days. But do you know what's going to happen as soon as those kids leave? She's going to miss them really, really bad. And what Brother Hay is trying to get at, if we're trying to make this appearance we're almost not telling the truth, because all of us have things in our life even that it's not always what it should be. We're trying to be something that we really can't be. And I've always thought about that. And I don't know about you, but I want to be somewhere where I'm comfortable. And for a long time, Jorge always wore a tie and a suit and all that kind of stuff for a long time. And even when I finally got rid of my coat, I still kept my shirt and tie, but we had some older people that came, and I did it out of respect for them. And I remember what my oldest daughter said to me one time. She said, "Well, you shouldn't care about what they think." How many know that's how division starts? And one of the things, even with the youngest two boys that are with us, with Brandon and Zach, I had to have a long discussion with them today about respect and understanding that you can't always have your way, and you need to consider other people's feelings. Does that make sense? Whether it's driving Tanya crazy or Doris crazy or me. Oh yeah, that's we went through the 6 7 phase. We survived that. Oh, that was crazy, bro. But I look at that, and here's what Jorge wants to tell you. No matter how hard we try, we all have things we could do better, but we should always be considering the other person. And the only thing that causes unity is when people stop worrying about always having to have their own way. Well, that's not the way I do it. Okay, we got to be careful, because that's how division starts, right? And I always use that little example, and I talked about it in Sunday school last week with Sister Hay came to my class over there in Clovis, and she wanted to change the way I have my classroom set up. Hi guys, and I told him, I said, "Honey, I love you to death, but I'm not a lady, and my classroom's just fine. Leave it alone." Because how many know people do things different? And I'm one of them kind of guys. And you know what? I, somebody walks in my classroom, it's not going to matter to me if I got flowers sitting on my desk. That's like, no, that's not who I am. Okay. and and I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. Does that make sense? Now, does that make me right and Doris wrong? No, she's a lady and she likes that stuff. Fine, go ahead. And she decorates stuff. She does a good job. And I'm one of those kind of guys. I'm not really into all that, but we'll leave that alone. Maybe some of you guys aren't like Brother Hay, but I know there's some guys that like to do that, but I'm just not much into it. Sister A used to move ours so much, Stars used to move ours so much. I always had to work late and stuff come in the middle of the night and go to get in bed. There's no bed there. There's nothing worse than flopping down, finding yourself on the floor, and you're going like, what in the world, sis? Never mind. I better be good so I don't get in trouble. Tanya, would you hand in my paper, baby? And anyway, so division's very important that we understand. And we're not always going to agree on a lot of things, but here's what we need to agree on. We need to agree on who Jesus is. That's the thing that we've got to be united in. We have to understand that he went to that cross, he died for us, he rose the third day, and he's coming back. We have to understand, and we have to agree that he's the Son of God. And look, I know how much stuff is out there right now, but I don't care how much people want to change it. God's word is set. How many are glad? I am glad that God's word is set. And I'm glad that there is such a thing as truth. Because if there wasn't any truth, how many know we'd be in a lot of trouble? And I always use one of the same example I always love to use is no matter how bad a day you had today, guess what's going to happen in the morning? Right on schedule, that sun's coming up. And Kaylee had got herself in a little bit of a pickle this week, and I had to get after her. And she reminded me of my favorite saying: the past is history, right? The future's a mystery. How many know we don't know what tomorrow holds? But the present is called the present because it's the gift that God has given us in this moment. And we need to take advantage of that gift. Does that make sense? We can't go backwards. We can try to undo certain things. We can try to do better, those kind of things, and we should. But here's the bottom line: we can't live in the past. What happens if we try to live in the past? You'll get overwhelmed in a hurry and you'll never make any progress. That's right. You'll always be wrapped in it. I always try to tell people when you run a race, and I didn't run a whole lot of track. I'm going to tell you straight up, I played football, did baseball, those things. Not a basketball guy, but quit laughing, Tanya. But what I did learn, I ran hurdles when I was in school. And what I learned real quick, you never look over your shoulder to see where the other guy is. You know what happens when you look over your shoulder? You miss the hurdle and you end up on your nose, or they catch up to you, right? And I learned real quick that we can't worry about what's behind us. We got to focus on what's ahead. And if you ever watch people run hurdles, it's pretty impressive sometimes. Now, Burhay's not that level of athlete, but those people that run it, like in the Olympics, have you ever seen how good they really are and how much precision it is? But I promise you, if one of them look back, they're going to be in trouble. They have to keep their focus ahead of them. And it's sort of like when one time, I think it might have been Michael Jordan, they were talking to him about, missing a shot that would have won the game. And they were giving him a lot of grief. Do you know what his answer was? I guarantee you, you always miss 100% of the shots you don't take. There's a lot of truth in that statement, right? And so if you're not trying, and when we're talking about unity in the church and we're trying to bring people together, if we focus on all the differences, we're in trouble. But the one uniting factor has to be a relationship with Christ. And depending on where you're at in your walk with the Lord, if you have just given your heart to the Lord, how many know the enemy's first job is to come and try to pull that seed out? And I always, in my mind, think about those kind of things. So when someone first starts serving the Lord, how many know we need to bring them along and we need to be an encourager? How about the ones that love to put roadblocks in? And there's nothing crazier than people giving somebody a list of what they're supposed to do. Now, I can tell you that, you know what, when I was growing up, I had a list of stuff I had to do. There's certain chores you knew you had to do, right? In our house, Brandon has to make his bed. All right, I'm not sure how good it is, but at least he makes his bed. And and there's a few things that he has to do, right? That's important. But how many know you can overwhelm people with lists? And the next thing you know, they get so frustrated, you know what happens? They just stop doing anything and they stop trying. That's why God's word says that kids need to be corrected, but not to the point of discouragement. Does that make sense? Huh? That's right. You can't. That's right. Some people have never heard a good word. They just haven't. And a lot of times people pretty soon start believing what they're told. Brother says this. I said Sunday morning at Sunday school, those have been around me. I know a lot of people are missing tonight, but people that have known me for years will tell you, I believe this with all my heart. God don't make any junk. We're all God's children. Some of us are a little further along, some are a little further back, have this and some have that. And we talked about this a little bit last week. How many know all of us have different gifts? That's a good thing. I promise you. I was talking to somebody the other day at McDonald's yesterday. There's a young lady that usually works in the drive-through. We've had a lot of trouble at McDonald's since the grandkids have been here. So I took them inside. Just so happened when I take them in there, all the managers were there on day shift. Yeah, so we didn't have no trouble with her stuff. But that young lady was there, and I was talking to her, and she had told me she was going to try to get or working on getting this job selling insurance. Come to find out, it was like an Amway scheme, and she figured it out, but it cost her some money. And I was talking to her, and she said to me, she said, "I just don't know what to do. It don't seem like I can ever get ahead." And here's what I told her. I said, "You should never ever give up on your dreams." I said, "I promise you there are a lot of things in life where you're going to trip up and fall. It don't matter how many times you fall, it matters how many times you get up. If that guy's in that boxing ring and he gets knocked down 10 times, but he gets up on that 10th time, he gets up the 11th time and knocks the other guy out and he don't get up, guess who just won? It didn't matter about the 10 times he got knocked down." And when you think about your walk with the Lord, one of the things that we forget, and really Paul used this illustration, he talked about a runner. He said a lot of people run the race, but only those that finish are the ones that receive the prize or the reward at the end. And so when we're walking with the Lord, sometimes we mess up. How many know we got to pray and ask the Lord forgive us, and we need to get up on our feet and try to do better? We never get a free pass just to do wrong stuff. But God does give us the ability to do better if we allow the Lord. And we talked about this, Larry, and I think it was the other Larry too that was talking about this in Sunday school. You know, sometimes the Lord talks to us, and we're kind of hard headed. And sometimes the Lord tells us stuff and we don't listen, right? Like Larry was mowing the grass, and something kept telling him not to drive, to move his truck. And you know what? He never moved his truck, and before long, he ran over a rock, hit the windshield of his truck, and busted it while he was mowing the grass. And Tanya, she loves when everybody else gets in trouble, but not her. But here's what Brother Hay wants to tell you. A lot of people would say, "Bro, hey, that's a bad example. God don't care about those things." Yes, he does. And the secret is learning to listen for the little things. Because how many know it's not usually big things that get you in trouble? Okay? It's the little things that build up over a period of time. Yep, yep. Before long, we get in a lot of trouble because now it's so big, we're overwhelmed. And so it goes back to, if somebody told Brother, "Hey, when I was young, okay, you need to go in there and bench press 200 pounds," I'd be like, "Who you talking to?" Right? I'd go in there and push on that 100 times when I weighed 120 pounds. I promise you that bar's not going up. Well, I know that. But here's what I learned. Over a period of time, guess what? You build up strength. And over a period of time, all of a sudden, I remember when I finally got to that 250 mark, and I've made this statement a lot of times. I had a friend that worked out in the gym all the time before I retired, and when we were overseas one time at Provide Comfort, and they had a little thing there. If you could bench press 250 pounds, you got a T-shirt. It was one of those things. That was like his whole goal in life was to get that T-shirt. Well, by that time, I was already old enough that I wasn't hanging out in the gym anymore. That makes sense? I just wasn't doing that. I mean, I stayed in shape, kept up, did runs, and did that kind of stuff, and was a lot skinnier, probably about 60 pounds skinnier. But I remember him working out, and he always told me he could never bench press 250 pounds. And he would always kind of give me a hard time. And I always told him, I said, "Look, it's not that you can't do it. It's that you think you can't do it. You've already made up your mind when you lay down there to lift that weight that you can't do it." Of course, he started giving me a lot of grief. Okay, Perhay still has that little streak. And I had it then. I said, "Okay." I said, "Let's go over there and see what happens." And he knew I hadn't been to the gym except to beat him in racquetball really bad. But anyway, I went over there with him. Guess what? I lifted 250 pounds the first try. And he was so mad. He said, "How can you do that?" I said, "Because I've done that plenty of times." Now, I will tell you, I couldn't do 260. That 250 was my max. That was it. I'm not going no higher. That's all I could ever get. because my brain block was at 260. Yep, I could get 250 two times, and that was it, and then I'd be done. But guess what? I knew I could do it. So when I laid on that bench, and what was really, really funny about it is he got the 250 up, but anybody knows about doing a bench press, he arched his back, and they still wouldn't give him a t-shirt because you got to keep your back flat. And I give him my t-shirt. I say, here, man, you can have this. I said, that way you could strive to do better. Now, sometimes you got to be mean. But here's the whole thing about unity. It don't matter if it's Brother Hay or you. Don't let people tell you that you can't. Don't limit what you think God can do. Look, how hard is it to face the enemy? I'm not going to lie to you. If you're struggling in your life, that enemy is real. Sometimes, hi, Brother Randy. Sometimes people will say to me, well, do you know that people that have anxiety, that's not real? Yeah, it is real. When people talk about having depression, Brother Hay will never tell you there's no such thing as depression. It's real. But I know the answer, and his name is Jesus. Does that make sense? But here's what happens in the church. Instead of giving people the answer that God's word says and agreeing that Jesus is the answer, how many know we have our own recipe to help things along? Well, if you do it this way, you'll be a better Christian. If you do this, you won't be depressed. Okay? How many have ever watched those things that you get on your news feeds and stuff like that? Now, I don't pay much attention. I don't get a whole lot of them because I never click on that stuff. But how many know this diet thing is a big deal right now? And whether it's Ozempic or whatever, I don't even know all their names. But sometimes you see some of them and you go, really? Like there was one here a while back that I think, if I remember it right, you drink vinegar and something else before you go to bed. And if you do that, you can lose like 50 pounds without having to do anything. Okay. I know you said you were in the fire department, so you understand this. There's only one way to lose weight. You got to take in less calories than you burn. I don't care how many pills they give you. I don't care how many shots they give you. And so people always say that to me. I always tell them, hey, look, I know how to do this. You got to take in less calories than what you burn. My little grandson the other day, he's so funny. He got him a pack of those sour Skittles, right? And he's kind of slim anyway. He's walking around, Randy. You love this. I go, why are you walking around? He said, so I can burn the calories for these Skittles I'm eating. And he was. He just walking himself around in circles. You know, he's 10 years old. I don't know where he got that. He heard something somewhere and he made up his whole mind. Hey, I can eat my candy as long as I walk around in a circle while I'm eating it. So, that was his answer. But here's what Brother Hay is telling you. People say, well, you can't ever lose weight. And they say that. But what they're really saying is, I don't want to put in the work to do it, because how many know to lose weight is work? Don't ever let anybody tell you that it's not. Like Kaylee. Oh yeah, Kaylee has a different diet than us. She lives on chocolate chip cookies and ice cream. She has this thing with junk food. We'll just leave it there. But what it is, she has a thyroid issue that keeps her from gaining weight. And her doctor told the other day there's a procedure they can do. And I've been kind of holding off. And I told him, I said, well, I'm worried about what's going to happen to her if this thing works, because I can see her weighing 200 pounds pretty quick, because she's going to find out that that relationship with chocolate and ice cream isn't going to work so good for her then, because that, whatever it is, it makes her metabolism. But what Brother Hay is trying to get across, unity is important. And the way we get together is we have to have the same mind and have the same judgment. Our judgment should be we can do all things through Christ Jesus, which strengthens us. That should be our mindset. That should be our judgment. It shouldn't be about all these other things. Because Brother Hay is just going to be honest with you. What works for you might not work for somebody else. I'm just being honest about that. Everybody is unique. Everybody is different. We all have different likes and different dislikes. Ask Sister Hay about chitlins. She, we had some friends, and okay, Brother Hay is from the South, and we were pretty poor growing up, so I knew about a lot of things. But we're in church one day, and so a couple wanted us to come eat with them, and so my first question is, what are you guys having? They said, oh man, we're gonna boil up some chitlins. Yeah, yeah, they're already cooking them. But anyway, it was so funny. I told my friend, I said, hey, are you having anything else? He said, well, we're going to have hot dogs for the kids. I said, I'll be a hot dog person. I said, I don't care for chitlins. Uh, anyway, Sister Hay, she comes in there. She's all going to be tough and eat these chitlins. It didn't work out well for her. So she didn't eat the chitlins. I had to laugh. But it was funny to me. But and what Barhe is saying, our friends loved them. There are 3 or 4 couples there with us, and they all loved them. But not Brother Hey. I knew better because I didn't really care for them. But how many know that chitlins is an acquired taste? Okay, Randy, have you ever? I didn't. Did you ever go to Korea when you were in the Navy? Okay, how many know what kimchi is? Anybody here know what kimchi is? Okay. Well, here's what's funny. I saw this other day. Another new diet they got out, and it's sauerkraut and eating like fermented cabbage, right? Well, another brand of fermented cabbage, believe it or not, is kimchi. Now, if you know how they make kimchi, you might not be a fan because they bury it in the ground till it rots and it ferments. And believe it or not, sauerkraut's fermented kind of the same way. But the only difference with kimchi is it's usually pretty spicy. They put a lot of spices on it and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, you got all these people doing a kimchi diet. Well, Brother Hay don't care how you get your calories. All right. It's not going to matter. You just got to make sure you take less in than what, you burn more than you take in, then you'll lose weight. Bottom line. And so I have to laugh at all that. But there's so many fads